During my years as a trader and just working in the industry, I've heard a lot of curious things about brokerage services. For example, when I was starting out, I was kind of getting involved with the forex crowd, and I gotta tell you, there's a lot of petty people in that crowd. They were always blaming the broker when things would turn south on their account, and they would say things like, oh, the broker is trading against me, the broker is collecting my stop orders, or the broker is not filling my limit orders, historical charts change, and things like that. Another example is a few years ago, I was talking to a guy who was convinced that if he buys stock through a brokerage firm, he owns that stock in his name. So these are the things that I want to address in this video. So let's go. All right, so in the past 2.5 years, I have had the privilege of working with two of the brightest people probably on the planet today when it comes to brokeraging. The guys were one of the first to actually establish an ECN back in the 90s, an electronic communications network with an exchange. Back in the 90s, create a brokerage service and then sold it to the Bank of America. And they are back in the business again, and I am the one to be lucky enough to be helping them. So obviously I have a lot of NDAs signed with them, so I can't tell you a whole lot of how a brokerage firm operates, internally, but I will try to share my knowledge that I have gained just by working with these guys about how the internal operations organs of the brokerage firm work in a more general way without infringing on my NDAs. So let's put this video into three categories. First, I'm gonna tell you briefly a quick overview of how a brokerage firm actually operates behind the scenes. Second, I'm gonna tell you what I know for sure that a broker does to make some extra cash. Third, I will tell you some things that I kind of know for sure, but not from the brokers themselves, but from a rather reputable sources. So, take that with a grain of salt. Oh, and actually let's add in one more there just to be sure: the data discrepancies, the orders not getting filled, and things like that. So a broker offers you the opportunity to buy or sell assets. Now, this doesn't actually mean that the broker is the one that is buying or selling those assets from the exchange. So how this operates in the background is actually a brokerage firm has multiple bank accounts that they just hold batches of client money in based on whether the client account is a cash account or a margin account. And when you deposit money, your money goes into that account. Now, internally on their databases, on their internal ledgers, they know how much a person holds on, out of that batch, how much belongs to a specific user, but the whole money is just compiled in a single batch. Now, when you do your trading activity during the day, the brokerage firm obviously keeps track of that. They know what you buy, what you sell, they know who fills your order and things like that. But they don't buy or sell individual stocks just as you keep trading along during the day. What happens is at the end of the day, they will roll up all of the trading activity for individual stocks, and they will know how much shares they need to have in their name, in the broker firm's name, to cover for what the users actually own or what the users actually have shorted or sold. So say that users are trading Tesla very actively, and at the end of the day, the brokerage firm sees that they need to buy 1 million shares of Tesla just to cover for what the users what the brokerage firm's users need to have in their accounts. So what's going to happen is actually then the brokerage firm turns to a clearing agency or a clearing firm, and that is the middleman that is actually communicating with the exchange and delivering the shares to the brokerage firm. So you might think that the broker is the middleman between you and the exchange. That's not entirely so. There's a bunch of middlemen along the way, such as the bank, such as the clearing firm, that actually deliver things to the broker, and then the broker kind of distributes them amongst their clients. So basically, the brokerage firm at the end of the day, they're going to send to the clearing firm, some paperwork saying, hey, we need to sell that amount of this share. We need to buy 1 million shares of Tesla. And the clearing firm is obliged to deliver on these requests. Now, what's going to happen is the clearing firm will deliver the shares at T+2 date, which means from the trade execution, there is going to be a delay of 2 days to actually deliver the shares to the brokerage firm. So as soon as you buy the Tesla if the broker doesn't have the Tesla to cover from another client, for their shorts or whatever for you or something like that, the broker might not actually have your Tesla until 2 days out, and that doesn't even incorporate weekends or holidays. So that's kind of how the brokerage firm works, and this is a very nice segue into actually one of the first points. Do I own stock in my own name when I buy it on a broker or through a brokerage firm? The answer is no, you don't. The brokerage firm owns the stock. They know how much stock each client owns. They know how much dividends to pay on the ex-dividend date and everything. They know all of that from their internal ledger. But what they have 1 million shares of Tesla, and that's it. There's, the whole shares are in the brokerage firm's name, or in some cases it might be in somebody else's name, like maybe the clearing firms or the banks. It depends on their contracts. So that's it. They know how much shares you own, but you don't actually own those shares. They just have an entry in their databases saying, hey, John here owns 100 shares of Tesla. So that's the first thing. Now let's talk about what a broker does to make some extra cash aside of their commissions. Now, imagine being a brokerage firm. You have all of this invaluable information of your users' trading activity. You know how many of your users are profitable, on what basis, how many of them are losing money, and you have all of this amazing data. And you can use that data to make some extra money without harming the client. So this is what I know that some brokerage firms for sure do, and to be honest, I think that the majority of them will be doing this because it's just so easy. It doesn't harm anyone. It's pure mathematics, pure statistics. The computing power necessary is not that big. The data, you have the data and you control it, so there really is no reason why you should not benefit from it, and there is no regulation that says you can't do this. So I know for sure that some brokerage firms do this. They will take either all of their clients or a subsection of their clients, which they know that usually lose. And let's be fair, there's going to be some clients that usually lose. So the brokers, they have that data. They know their trading activity. So they're going to take that section as a whole, and the broker then might actually take the other side of your trade. So when you buy something, the broker might be the one selling that to you, and that they're not going to do that from their clients' accounts. They're going to have a separate account for that, for their kind of trading activity, but they might be actually filling your order just based on how good of a trader are you. And that doesn't harm you, as I said, because they're either going to pick your order themselves, or they're going to send it over to the liquidity pool to be filled by somebody else. You don't care who fills your order. You just care about that the fill does happen. But the broker knows that you're a lousy trader, and if I do the opposite of what you do, I make some extra money. So in most cases, they will take advantage of that. Now, again, a pretty nice segue into something that I have heard from very decent clients that actually make a lot of money on certain brokerage firms, and they have a good contact with their brokerages. So I know that some firms, and this might be more the case for forex firms, they put their clients into certain buckets, and there might be called a bucket clients A and clients B. In the clients A bucket, they know that these are the profitable clients. They make money most of the time. They don't want to bet against these clients because they will lose. And you know what? Let me rephrase that. Bet against, that's a very bad word, because they're not actually betting against you. They're just filling your trade. So they won't be filling the trades of these clients because they would be losing money. They will be filling the trades, however, of the client B bucket, because those are the clients that constantly lose money. So that's how that works. Another thing is the brokerage firms, they do spend money on data, on server resources, on networks. Everything is a resource, right? So they're gonna try to save some money by delivering maybe slightly slower fills or maybe slightly slower connectivity to the clients in the B bucket, while delivering the premium speeds and the premium fills to the clients in the client A bucket. Now, this again is not necessarily unfair or anything in terms of clientele, and as I said, I'm not sure that brokers do that, but I've heard that they do from people I trust. Just that you have a delay in your fill that is, too 100 of a milliseconds later than the fill of the client A bucket, that doesn't really do anything for your trading unless you're a high frequency bot, in which case you're probably not trading through a brokerage firm. So that's what I kind of know that brokers do. And again, it doesn't really harm you as a trader. It's just what happens, just what they do to save some money. And lastly, let's address the data discrepancies, the charts that you see that change at the end of the day, or the fills that should happen but they don't happen, or that shouldn't happen but they do happen. Let's talk about all of this. To understand how the data gets presented to you, you need to appreciate the fact that brokers have to adjust the data. Actually, not necessarily brokers, but data delivery services, even exchanges do that. They have to adjust the historical data at the end of the day to account for the bad ticks, the incorrect fills, all of these things. Because imagine somebody through a mistake submits a weird order that's like 50% away from the price, and that's a stop limit order per se, and that order gets filled at that price just because of a mistake that they made. Now this is going to generate a tick in the data stream saying, hey, there was an execution at that price 50% away of the current close price. That's going to generate a huge wagging tail to that 50% mark, but the actual activity to that price, it's not going to be there. So this will be considered as a bad tick, which do get eliminated most often at the end of the day when the data gets readjusted, servers gets restarted, and things like that happen. So you might see one day a huge wagging tail, the other day you might see nothing there because it was adjusted. You have to understand that just because you see a tail wagging through your limit order and your limit order didn't get filled, that does not mean that there was trading volume, that there was deep book entries to actually pick your order up. Maybe there was somebody else who offered a better price. Maybe, I don't know, there might have been different scenarios for that. But the tail on the chart does not mean that there was activity to fill your order. So don't go, busting your brokerage firm's doors if you see things like that happen where your limit order doesn't fill, but you see a tail just touching your limit order, or maybe just going past through that. That's not necessarily going to fill the order. Same story for stops. If you don't see a tail but your order is filled, that doesn't necessarily mean that there was no activity there that would not pick up your order in the deep book. So again, data discrepancies, that's not necessarily on your broker. That's just how things work. That's that's the margin that we operate within, and that's the story. So yeah, I guess that addresses everything I wanted to cover. I didn't touch on regulation. Maybe just coming back to point number one, if you're interested in that. When brokerage firms work with money, when they have the money in their accounts, when they have the stocks that they need to deliver, there is another middleman. Well, it's not necessarily a middleman, it's kind of an overlooking agency. That's the regulatory agency, and that might be the FINRA, that might be the SEC, depending on what you're trading. Some new agencies might be popping up for cryptocurrencies as well, but they are the ones that are enforcing the brokerage firms to actually have what they say they have for their clients. So if you buy 100 shares of Tesla, the regulatory agency is going to be making sure that you actually that the brokerage firm, does actually have that 100 shares for you. And the way they do that is they are obliged to submit reports to these firms at the end of each day saying how much activity was generated, the roll-up numbers, everything, and they have to give the confirmation slips in most cases as well from the clearing agencies to just show that this data, that these stocks are there, that the accounts actually have money. And yeah, so that's how things are enforced, and that's how things operate. Anyhow, I hope that you find this content useful. I hope this sheds some light on some misunderstandings that traders have against their brokers. If you like this content, please hit the thumbs up, because that's going to definitely help me out as a starting up channel, but that's also going to help the YouTube algorithm to determine better content for you to recommend. Thank you for watching. If you like the content, please feel free to subscribe. Don't subscribe if you don't want to. It's your life. See you in the next video. Bye.